So what we're doing today is we're going to be covering part 2 of the 10,000 subscriber questionnaire, getting into some really good topics, most of which will be actually based around how to excel in poor conditions. So improving your surfing and making sure you're really taking control of the conditions and your surfing when the waves aren't so good. So there's a few really good tips in there, but also a bunch of other stuff that we cover. And if you are new here, my name is Considine, and I'm a longboard enthusiast, a professional longboarder and a longboard coach, and I'm here to share my learnings and experiences like these ones today with you all. So if you do find the video valuable, then please feel free to subscribe. And if you know of anyone else who might find it valuable as well, then please feel free to share it with them. But let's get straight into the edit. So, next question. What do you aim to get out of a surf that is not ideal conditions? For example, onshore crumbling waves. For me at the moment, I guess I'll answer that personally, and then what you guys should maybe focus on as well. So going into the competitive season, for me it's all about wave selection and getting the scores on these waves and being patient. You find the best surfers, the best of the best, especially in a competitive realm, they're able to, make gold out of nothing. They're able to get the waves and get the job done. So that's a lot of what I'm focusing on, just consistency and reliability and wave selection. And then on top of that, I suppose, for yourselves, I think there's a lot to be said around focusing on the fundamentals when the conditions are poor. Obviously, when the conditions are poor, there's a lot to throw us off balance. There's a lot to make things go wrong. And it's really important to have a great understanding of what you actually need to be focusing on as well. One of the key things that I find myself working on with people is just firstly establishing what they need to be working on. People have a goal of maybe focusing on the cross step or the drop knee turn or hanging 5. And so if they try those things in tricky conditions, but there's actually sub skills or skills that they required to do these actual skills, but they haven't learnt those properly, like your rail to rail positioning for your to set up for the nose ride and the cross step and all of that. If you're unable to do that, then that's really going to show in poor waves, and therefore learning the cross step or the nose ride in those harder waves is going to be very tricky. So if you can really do your homework, again, getting footage and film is incredible for this. And yeah, get in touch with me if you need any more assistance with that. But this is where it's really important to make sure we're isolating the right thing to work on. From there, if it is things like being able to negotiate from your inside to outside rail more easily, if it's actually setting that initial line or knowing what line to set to establish a stable cross step, all of that can come from there. Obviously, it's hard in tricky conditions, but if we can focus on the right things, then that's where the real gold will come. Hope that makes sense. All right, next question here. So after last season, you said that you're working on waves that aren't perfect for nose riding. Yep. I've learned the most from what you've said that you're seeing and looking for. Any tips on getting a read on unfamiliar breaks or anything new that I've learned? First and foremost, in terms of getting familiar with unfamiliar breaks, it's just time in the water and repetition is a big part of that. So you've just got to put in the work for that. For example, in the contest I've got coming up in Burleigh Heads in a few days' time at the end of this coming week, I'm going up a few days early to actually just make sure that I'm understanding the break, all the intricacies, where to sit, how the wave's feeling. I'm going to have a chat with some locals around there as well. All of that's going to play a big part. And I found for contests in particular, making sure that I get there early and I am figuring the wave out. There's such a stark contrast of how I perform in the competition if I've got that variable under wraps. I know what I'm doing there. I'm familiar with the wave. So putting your time in the water is a big one. And the other thing I'd say there with getting familiar with a wave like this is don't oversurf it to begin with. So just really try and feel the wave, feel how just naturally how close to the pocket you're being pulled or how far it's pushing you out onto the shoulder. Obviously we want to be closer to the pocket, but with a more powerful wave, it will push you out onto the shoulder a bit more. And just, try and complete your waves and really get a sense for how that wave is moving and feeling. It's a hard thing to describe when we're discussing feeling the pocket or certain phrases like that, but it is what we need to be doing. And then from there, once we've got a good feel for the wave, that's when we can start to recognise where your nose ride sections are, where your cutback sections are, every wave will ebb and flow a little bit as to when it gets critical and when it fattens out a bit and we need to come back to the pocket. So trying to figure all of that out and watching the other surfers out there as well, getting some more advice from them, that can always be super helpful. Again, that's definitely what I do. So yeah, it's a tricky thing, especially if you're feeling not comfortable with the waves. So go out there, be really kind to yourself, try to just surf the wave nice and easy and feel what the wave's doing, and then you can build it from there. We're never going to go out and be an expert at a location we've never been out at before, so just give yourself some time and some repetition in the water there as well. Do you usually try new things? Yeah, absolutely. Again, it kind of differs as to what season I'm in. You know, if I'm competing, then I'm trying a bit less of, I guess, new things in a sense, but outside of the competition times, I'm definitely giving new things a go. One of the big things I tried in the off season this year, which I've just been working on a few different things with a coach. And so I was actually just riding more of the pintail. I was actually riding an old mal for a fair while as well, all just to get a better sense for positioning the board in the right place, not forcing things, and just learning to improve my overall surfing and a few more intricacies within that, which I won't delve too much into here. But yeah, so trying new boards. I've obviously been challenging myself with the waves that I'm surfing far less of perfect point breaks and getting myself out in some conditions with some real push and energy, because in terms of where I need to develop and where I have been developing, that's definitely it. And then if you're talking about kind of maneuvers and things like that, absolutely. I get really, really obsessive. I think the last time I probably got really obsessive about something was the double kickback nose trick, which I tried to think of a new nose trick, and I still haven't really seen anyone do that. But I think it's a really good, it's a really, really fun trick. But I remember for a solid couple weeks, I was just going out surfing and trying to get this double kickback maneuver, which eventually got it to the point where it's feeling really, really comfortable. But yeah, I think if you are going to learn something new like that, being obsessive with it can have its benefits as well as some detriments where you can get a bit frustrated, but it's all part and parcel with learning new things. But yeah, I'm trying to develop and push myself in those ways all the time. I found probably that's one of my strengths in my approach to surfing. I've always been wanting to develop and try new things and do that. The stars are literally coming out now. I might have left it too late to successfully get this foot stall with the GoPro, but we'll try one more, see how we go. The biggest thing that I see, and I've definitely fallen into in previous times, is getting really comfortable with where I'm at surfing wise. And again, there's no problem with that, but if you are looking to develop your surfing, which is I guess what we're addressing here, getting comfortable with your surfing and just sticking to what you know and not having things to break you out of that mold is a big thing. So yeah, it's important to try and break out of that mold with a few things, keeping yourself accountable to those. So yeah, I do try new things. All right. Do you have any tips on doing floaters with a longboard to get more fun out of those sections that are closing out? Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. So if you're thinking about your floater, essentially, you're gonna be having a lot softer of a bottom turn into it. So instead of like a typical off the top or a re-entry where we are going to be coming from the bottom and then driving up towards the top of the wave and having that more vertical positioning or slant of that board up towards the wave, what we actually want to be doing is coming at it with a lot more of a shallow bottom turn. So yeah, just less of an acute angle. And then we do want to hit it with a fair bit of speed as well. And if you think about what we're actually trying to do, very rarely does it work if we're all the way on top of the wave. You actually want to be kind of, if you imagine this is the wave, you want to be leaning over the lip a little bit. So you don't want to be right on top here because you're likely to fall off the back of the wave. But you want to have that underside of the board, not right on top, but a little bit here. And this will, the more speed that you come into it with, the further you're going to drive with that floater. So you're thinking, you're trying to come up nice and softly from that bottom turn with a fair bit of speed, and then you're just letting yourself run across the top. And then it's not really about kind of pushing with your rail or anything like that, but just holding that line until it lets you down, with a longboard at least. I find that's the best approach. I know that was a little bit scattered, but hopefully that sort of made sense and helps out a little bit. Don't do the deep bottom turns because it won't get you to where you want. All right, how do you stay so loose in the water whilst on a wave? Obviously over time, as you become more proficient with different things, that's how you become more comfortable and more confident in the water. From a more general point of view, I find the easiest way to become more loose in the water is to establish a lot of confidence around manipulating your position on the board. A lot of the times, the reason we get stiff as longboarders is we're really trying to hold on. Say we're dropping down the line or we're heading down towards the bottom of the wave and we don't feel confident to cross step back or adjust our position to the tail. And so this is where we'll try and push a lot of weight onto the inside rail to be able to avoid just purling and nose diving at the bottom of the wave. But this will also be a very precarious position where we come and we just stiffen everything up because we're trying to hold on for dear life, essentially. So number one thing for becoming more comfortable and loose on longboards is to get really confident moving your way between the thirds of the longboard and really being able to make those fine adjustments with your cross stepping and some other little adjustments that you can do there. So that's probably the biggest one. Again, that's a fairly big topic that we could cover. Anything that we're trying that's a new maneuver, we're always going to be a little bit more uptight with, just because that's the body's natural kind of protective mechanism to stiffen up. So once we get more comfortable, we'll definitely loosen up. Yeah, that's probably it for that one. All right, a few more here. Any tips on the pop-up for someone transitioning to longboarding after spending a lot of time on a shortboard? I find myself projecting a bit too far up the board. Okay, congrats on 10K by the way, really appreciate what you do. Awesome. Yeah, okay, so this is something I do have a lot of shortboarders that have moved onto a longboard that I coach through. A big thing is just simply understanding that there's a couple different types of pop-ups on a longboard. There's going to be the pop-up in the middle of the board, and this is what we learn at the start, because obviously the middle is where we're going to be establishing all of our speed and balance. But on a longboard, we can't turn very well from the middle, and so if we're looking to take off in critical waves, or if we're looking to establish a fade turn or a bottom turn straight from the takeoff, that's when we do need to establish a pop-up where our feet come onto the tail from the get-go. So there's a few, again, probably in the scope of today's video, I could touch on a lot of things here. But for the purpose of today, trying to pop up on the tail and then engaging the rail from the get-go is going to be the best way to go. Practice this at home with either with your fins taken out of your board and just practice popping up on the tail. It's going to be the exact same position as what you would want to bring yourself into, say you were standing on the board and cross-stepping back to the tail. It's going to be the same position that you bring yourself into there. So try to pop your feet from the pop-up to that position, and that's when you're going to engage a nice bottom turn out of the pop-up. I hope that's what you mean by projecting yourself too far forwards. I assume that means you're coming too close towards the middle. So that's definitely going to be the solution there. Few things to delve into there, but hopefully that somewhat makes sense. Where are you surfing generally? Because we don't have waves like this here. Our waves are 2 to 3 foot, closed out shore breaks. What would you recommend in these conditions? How would you surf it with an 9.0? So I'm from around the Torquay area in Victoria, Australia. Have to be super honest, we're very blessed with the variety of conditions and waves. We have reefs, beaches, points, all of that, and great longboard waves, great shortboard waves, which we're really, really fortunate for. First thing that I would do, or that I'd be recommending for yourself, is just know the conditions that suit your local breaks like the back of your hand. So know what I guess swell direction, wind, tide, swell size works for the breaks that you're after. Talk to people, and then also just go check the waves, even when the waves are pretty shocking in terms of the conditions, because this will just help give you the information you need to know when the breaks are going to be best. Chances are, it's not going to be 2 to 3 foot all the time, and potentially not closing out all the time. Again, I might be speaking from a place of complete ignorance here, but sometimes if the higher tide comes through, then the waves might have a bit more wall to them because they're not just shutting down as much. But again, I'm not sure. So knowing the conditions really well is awesome. And then I actually just did an online video analysis session with someone with this exact problem. Their solution was close to them, so within their kind of immediate proximity, the waves, there wasn't a lot of options for waves, but 40 minutes away was where the best longboards waves were. And so what we're actually getting him to do is to actually travel a bit further to get some good practice repetition in. So we are needing to, I guess, plan the surfs out a little bit more to travel to the better locations. But that's going to have a really good impact, I suppose, on his surfing development and also just having fun, which is the most important thing. So that might be something to consider as well. In terms of if the conditions are quite short, I'm not sure where you are, but I know over where Brian, Longboard Sessions, lives, New Jersey, quite short, punchy waves. You're definitely going to do better with something that's a little bit more reactive. So something with a bit more rocker, potentially a bit of a pulled in tail, something that's a bit lighter. You might even find some bit of edge through the tail would be a little bit helpful too, rather than your typical flat involvement log. So yeah, that's a few things to consider with that. But again, I know it's tricky when the conditions aren't, I guess, matching what you want to be doing or how you want to be surfing. But hopefully there's a few little tips that can help somewhat there. And last question, I've been surfing for over a year now and have just moved on to a more performance style longboard with a 2+1 setup and harder rails coming from more of an all-rounder 50-50 rail single fin. I'm noticing my turns are much tighter and feel very speedy and fun, kind of like what we spoke about before, which is good. But the moment I try to cross step, I bury a rail and come off. I'm wondering if I need to keep an eye out for a secondhand log to learn cross stepping and nose riding. Okay, so a few things here, but certainly I think having a variety of longboards in your quiver, although it's easier said than done, can be really, really helpful. Yeah, firstly, kind of goes back to what we were saying before, which is cool, in terms of the high performance boards are a lot tighter and faster with their turns, but certainly in terms of the control and stability through your cross stepping and your nose riding will be fairly different. We know that for the most part as well with our high performance boards, high performance longboards, the nose ride position will be different as well. So we won't be able to, I guess, stay as tight and critical. We won't be able to get that same lift underneath the pocket, and as well as that fin, that center fin's usually a lot smaller on a high performance longboard. So there will be things that influence your ability to cross step and nose ride to the same degree. I'd love to know a little bit more about whether you had focused on that a little bit with your previous log. You know, how are you, or how competent are you with some of the fundamentals that we, I guess, have talked a little bit about today with respect to nose ride setups and adjusting your line and placing weight onto the rail that's needed, because all of that will be super important, or I suppose will be magnified and more important when you're on a high performance longboard, because it will be less stable, it will be a little bit wobblier, and the positioning is really going to matter. So yeah, I suppose from that side of things, it can't hurt if you're able to also get another log or a longboard. Again, like we said before, from your intermediate stage all the way through the advanced stage, I think getting something with a little bit of rocker, as well as that wide point in the middle, is definitely going to help you from a stability point of view, as well as from the perspective of nose riding in more sections, more variety of sections, not just steep and critical. So I think that would be really, really helpful. And then you can use that high performance longboard to focus more on your rail game. And then, of course, as you get more proficient with all of this, you're certainly going to be able to do both of those things on the high performance as well as on the log. And then hopefully you've got an okay sort of quiver to be able to take out when the waves are suiting certain boards, or yeah, you've got a variety of conditions that you're able to be on the best board for. So I think that would be really good. So I hope that helps out a little bit. I think, yeah, get the fundamentals right, know what you need to work on to make sure that the board's in the right position and the right line for your cross stepping and nose riding. That's the most important thing, especially if you're digging or burying a rail. It's probably that the line's not being set up correctly. And so your positioning on the board and the wave might need a bit of an adjustment. So again, like I said before, getting some film of yourself surfing just so you can personally see what it's looking like and where the mistakes might be coming from can be really, really important as well. So I definitely suggest that. All right, so we had a few other questions on there. I won't get to all of those today because I think this video has been quite long already. But for everyone who has asked a question, I might do those another time, but I'll also give you a response in the sections where you left that comment as well. So we'll leave it there for today with regards to the Q&A. If you have any questions on anything that we discussed today, I know there was a lot thrown out there, so please feel free to leave those in the comments below. Always love having a chat with you guys around what you're, I guess, learning from the videos, what makes sense, what doesn't make sense, and anything else that you're wondering. And on that note as well, if I will be doing the video on the cross step back from the nose upcoming, because I think that'll be a really good thing to cover. But if you do have any other questions or requests for our future episodes of the Sunday Glide, then feel free to leave those down in the comments below as well, and I'll get to those in a future video. Last little point is I'm just super thankful once again for all of the support. Reaching 10,000 subscribers is incredible, and I'm more passionate than ever to, I guess, keep creating these videos and trying to give you guys as much hopefully valuable information with respect to learning how to surf, and hopefully find it somewhat entertaining and enjoyable as well. So again, thanks so much. Can't wait to keep bringing these to you. We'll leave that there for today, but we'll catch you on the next one.